And if you would like to address the city council, we have some little cards in the back of the room that you have to fill out and get to the city clerk at the end of the table, and then she'll get them on down to me. At this time, we're going to begin with an invocation, and anybody who does not want to participate, you're welcome to go ahead and step out of the room until we're done. But at this time, I'm going to call Reverend Joe Butrin from Joy Fellowship Church to lead us in invocation. And if you would, Reverend, maybe you can lead us in the pledge afterwards.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well, Father, we just come to you tonight, Lord. We just thank you for this opportunity that we can all gather here. Lord, I just lift up these leaders, Lord, that you've set in place in our community, Lord. I pray for all the city council members and the mayor, Lord, that you would just give them wisdom, knowledge, and discernment, Lord, when decisions are to be made. Father, we just pray that you would just protect them and watch over them. And Lord, we thank you, Lord, that you've placed these individuals into positions of leadership that you have placed them in. Lord, I know that different people have voted and done things, but Lord, we know ultimately that you are the one that places people in positions of leadership. And Lord, we thank you for that. And Father, again, I just ask that this evening, Lord, would just be a time of where everyone can just get along, Lord. Where a time where decisions can be made that are crucial and important that impact our community. And Lord, again, we thank you, we praise you for everything you're doing, what you've done, and what you're about to do, Lord. And we ask this in your precious and holy name. And all the people said, Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. In addition to our regular audience, we do have the media in the back of the room, Crestview Community TV and Crestview News Bulletin always join us. We welcome them. And we do have an individual visiting all the way from Gulf Breeze, and that's Mr. Buzz Eddy. He's a retired city manager, and he will be here to give us any advice he might need when we get to that portion of the agenda. So thank you for coming, Buzz. Appreciate it. Keeping in mind on the agenda, we have removed 9B as in Baker, 9O is in Oscar, and 14D is in Delta. Those are lined through or removed. If you don't have it that way, please mark it that way. And with those deletions, does anybody have any issue with tonight's agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved to unanimous consent.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Does anybody have a pen I can borrow?
Thank you. Asking you shall receive.
One of those ones that can delete?
I'm sorry. We have removed 9B as in Baker. This is on the consent agenda.
Right.
9O, Oscar, and 14D is not consent agenda. That's a separate. It's underneath the. Underneath the staff reports and recommendations.
Okay.
14D, Delta.
I got it. Thank you, sir.
Those have been removed. By the way, we don't have a sign-in, I guess, this evening. So we'll make note of the fact we do have a quorum. We have one council member absent due to health issues. Councilman Faircloth is not with us this evening. He's with us in spirit, though. Okay, we are going to move on to public hearing 7A, Transmittal of Comprehensive Plan, Amendment 18-1.
Mr. President, did you want to do that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor had asked me if we could insert something under the special presentations because we didn't have any, and I told him we could do that, and I wrote it down, and then I just skipped over it. So that's all I can say. Mr. Mayor, you had the floor.
Thank you, sir. This has been a pretty busy day with the hurricane coming this way. I had a conference call with the mayors of this area from the Florida Emergency Management offices and brought us up to date. Probably everybody in the room knows that as of early afternoon it was a Category 1 hurricane, but they're expecting it could very well be a Category 3 by the time it makes landfall. And they told me then, it looks to me like it's moving east, but they told me it could be anywhere between Destin and St. Mark's. And so we're keeping an eye on that. I will tell you that our our city emergency management team met this afternoon, and we went over in detail the different things that we wanted to be able to take care of our citizens at that time. And so what I thought would do was just take a few moments, and if each of those department heads that were a part of that this afternoon, if you want to just touch base with the council members and let them know what your department will be doing, where you're staging, anything else that we discussed this afternoon. Chief Holland, do you want to go first?
Please use your microphones, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Please, thank you.
Is this good, Ken?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, we did meet earlier. We talked about all of our resources that we have and staging. We're working with the police department very closely with the fact that if the weather gets, when the weather starts picking up speed as far as wind goes, any officers that are out and about, they'll actually go and stage at our fire stations throughout the city, basically for protection out of the weather. 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds, we pretty much try to shut down our engines as far as responding to limited. If it's life-saving, then yes, we absolutely will go. If it's tree limbs down or something like that, or anything of that indication, we'll just hold off, and we might have one of us chief officers kind of go to check it out. And of course, I didn't bring any of my notes with me. What else?
Public information.
Public information, yes. Brian Hughes with Crestview Police Department is actually going to be our complete funnel for all the information. So that way you're not getting a lot of messages or anything else from the different department heads about the same thing. We're going to funnel everything to Brian, and then Brian will actually then send it out to you guys. And I know we asked about tonight, asking if you can get with us, I guess, after the meeting to let us know which way you want to be contacted, if you wanted to be contacted by email, phone call, or text message, so we can pass that on to Brian. And then anything that happens during the storm while we're here, we're going to throw everything to Brian. He'll post everything on the Facebook page as well. He'll keep that updated, so for all the public out there, if you don't have it, make sure you get Crestview Police Department on the Facebook page. He's going to put out all the information. As he gets it, he'll send it out there as quick as possible. That's what his main job's going to be for during this whole entire time. So that we want to keep you guys informed as well with anything that goes on with the city at all.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
Deputy Chief Grant.
I believe he's taken everything that I was going to say, pretty much, with the exception as of 6 p.m. tomorrow night, we will activate the entire department. So we'll be double staffed, 12-hour shifts, 2 shifts at night, 2 shifts in the daytime, and we'll carry that through until which time we feel that we can start easing off on that.
Mr. Steele.
Well, like Mr. Holland, both chiefs described, we were all brainstorming, the three of us and the mayor and some other staff members, about what we were going to do. We started this morning doing some pre-storm preparedness, like, you know, securing all items like trash cans and things like that throughout the parks and the city buildings and around, trying to make sure we were ready. Fueled all equipment, made sure everything's topped off, and got fuel brought in and topped off our storage tanks. In the event that we had to provide fuel for some other agency, we could, and whatever is required, maybe we could meet those services. We also, tomorrow at noon, I'm going to send all non-essential employees home because we're supposed to be receiving, if we are receiving tropical storm winds by then or soon. I'll send non-essential employees home. We'll keep the essential staff that we require in our emergency response handbook, and we will wait it out. And as soon as the winds die down where we can, our first plan of action is to go out and start pushing trees out of the road, and if there's trees down, and it looks like there may be some. And of course that is to make way, you know, clear the streets for emergency vehicles to be able to respond, you know, in the event they need to, that sort of thing. But the rest of it is just, we too will go to 12-hour days, 12-hour shifts, and to be able to provide the longest and best service that we can throughout the duration of the storm or after the storm.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. I will mention, too, that Governor Scott called this afternoon to offer his assistance and wanted us to contact him if there's anything that we needed along that way. Mr. Steele mentioned about sending his non-essential people home at noon. The group talked about the possibility with the wind. We're being told that the wind should start picking up in the afternoon and be at the heaviest, I guess, between 6 and 8 p.m. We discussed whether or not, since the county is closing down their offices at noon tomorrow, whether or not you wish to follow suit and send our employees, non-essential employees, home at noon. So I just leave that up to you, whatever your thoughts are on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one question for Mr. Steele, and that is, are we doing sandbags at Fire Station 3? And what
Yes, sir.
hours can people, they have to bring their own bags?
No, we have bags.
Do you have bags there?
Yes, sir. We have bags in sand, and they're available to any city resident. They just bring their own shovel.
Okay, what, and their own bags. What hours?
Really, the fire station, whenever someone's there. Right.
Whatever. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jay, you know, and I'll ask Madam Clerk, since you have a lot of people in the building over here, Mr. Steele is letting his people go. It seems to me that we should follow suit, but we don't really have anyone to pull that direction. That's my opinion. We ought to follow suit. I don't know what your opinions are, Vice President, Mr. Vice President.
Err on the side of caution.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Moore.
President, EOC advised me that they would go on full alert at 8 a.m. in the morning,
Okay.
but we need to get in line.
Mr. Hayes, any thoughts on this?
I think we should not endanger our employees in any way. Plus, they have things that their residents that they might have to maintain or get out of the way, trash cans or whatever they got in their yard that they've been needing to move. They'll probably have the opportunity to move it now before it gets blown away if the wind comes.
I think what you hear is we all agree that we ought to release our people tomorrow by noontime. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we're going to move on to 7A.
6.
Hmm?
6. We haven't done 6 yet.
Number 6 hasn't been acted on.
Minutes.
Oh, yeah, we didn't approve the minutes. Okay. Anybody have any objections with the minutes from 13th of August City Council meeting and the 6th of September public hearing and the 10th September City Council meeting? Hearing no objections, those were approved by unanimous consent. And finally, we're going to move on to 7A. I just really wanted to get there. Such an exciting topic. Pursuant to Article 4, Chapter 102 of the City Code and Florida statutes, I now declare the public hearing open for the purpose of receiving oral and written comments into the official record from the public for the purpose of consideration of the transmittal of proposed amendment package 18-1. If approved, the proposed amendment will be transmitted to the state for its consideration. For the record, the council asks that all speakers identify themselves by name and address. We also ask that speakers confine their oral remarks to the time allocated when recognized by the chair. Written comments received by the staff should be presented to the council and excerpts listed in the official minutes. The growth management staff and consultant, Mr. Jack Dorman of J.E. Dorman & Associates, will speak on behalf of the city. I now call upon the city clerk to recite for the record legal notice data provided to the public concerning this public hearing.
Hold on, it was not provided. Mr. President, publication of the legal notice for this hearing was accomplished in the Crestview News Bulletin on September 26, 2018.
Thank you. The matter for consideration is to conduct a public hearing to receive input from the proposed amendment as advertised. I now ask for presentation of staff reports and comments, if any, whether written or verbal. The chair recognizes the Growth Management Department staff to present any staff reports or comments.
Mr. President, there were no comments for the from the public concerning Amendment 18-1. The staff, technical review committee, and local planning agency recommend approval of this transmittal.
The chair now recognizes the consultant to provide input regarding the proposed amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening.
Good evening.
This is pretty straightforward. I know y'all know the property because you own it. It's the 100 acres out adjacent to and a portion of it contains part of your sewer treatment facilities. This should be a fairly straightforward amendment. We're asking for expedited state review by all the review agencies. There's 9 of those plus the DEO, the land planning agency. So I anticipate hearing something back from the state in 30 to 40 days. Be happy to answer any questions you may have about the amendment document or this process.
Thank you, Mr. Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President.
At this time, we will hear comments from proponents or opponents of the proposed amendment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the amendment? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address this amendment? At this time, I will close public input for the portion of the public hearing, except for direct question by members of the council. Do any council members have any comments or questions?
Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Ball.
Is there any area of this considered wetland?
We'll address that, Mr. Dorman, if you would address that, please. I don't think there was, if I remember correctly.
I don't think so either, but yeah, I know it's in the outside the 500-year floodplain area. I recall that, but I've got a.
On page 3, it states that there's no wetlands,
right,
other protected resources on the site.
Right, and the soils that are on the site are just right for what you're wanting to do.
Great.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, at this time, then I'm going to call for action.
Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Hayes.
I move to approve the transmittal of said amendment to the State Land Planning Agency and the other review agencies prior to considering adoption of the amendment and authorizing the Growth Management Director to execute the letter of transmittal of same.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the transmittal of said amendment to the State Land Planning Agency and the other review agencies prior to considering adoption of the amendment and authorize the Growth Management Director to execute the letter of transmittal of the same. Any further discussion? This time then I call for a vote. All those in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion carries 6-0 with one councilman absent. I now declare the public hearing closed. 4-0.
Yeah, 6-0.
On me.
I'm in the CRA meeting still.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorman. My correction, I was in the wrong meeting. We just got out of the CRA meeting where we had 6 people. 4-0 with one individual absent. I think these people keep me in line, I'm telling you.
We forgave you.
Okay. 7B is ordinance 1644, and I need to ask if there's anybody in the audience that's going to speak for or against ordinance 1644. Is there anybody in the audience? Okay. In that case, I now open the quasi-judicial hearing and ask the clerk to read ordinance 1644 by title.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 1644 reads by title. An ordinance of the City of Crestview, Florida, providing for rezoning of 1.43 acres more or less of real property located in Section 5, Township 3 North, Range 23 West, from the single-family dwelling district zoning R1A to single or multifamily dwelling district zoning R2, providing for authority, providing for the updating of the Crestview zoning map, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This is the second reading of ordinance number 1644.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with quasi-judicial rules. The city, applicant, and party shall each be allowed up to 20 minutes to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes if the person represents an organization or a group of people who are present but agree not to speak. City staff, the applicant or a party may be allowed to cross-examine any witness except a public participant following their testimony for a period not to exceed 2 minutes per witness. The city, applicant, and party who have been cross-examined may have up to 2 minutes for rebuttal. All witnesses, parties, the applicant, citizen participants, and their representatives, and city staff who plan to speak at the hearing shall collectively be sworn in at this time by the city clerk or the city clerk's designee. All those who plan to speak, please rise and raise your right hands. Madam Clerk, if you would.
Sorry, I don't have the papers again. I state your name.
I
Do solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Throughout the hearing, before speaking, state your name and address. Also announce whether or not you represent a group of participants. All speakers are to address the council from the speaker's stand. If you wish to speak and have not been sworn in, please inform the council. If in your testimony you wish to refer to written evidence, please declare such intent and enter the written evidence into the record. City council members may ask questions at any time during these proceedings. At this time, the city council member should disclose any ex parte communications and disclose whether any member physically inspected the property. To the extent possible, the member shall identify with whom the communication took place, summarize the substance of the communication, and the date of the site visit, if any. The member shall give the city clerk any written or ex parte communications they have received that are not already included in the project file. Is there any city council member that needs to disclose any ex parte communications or any physical inspection of the property? I now ask city clerk, city staff to enter the project file into the record.
Gentlemen, this is property owned by the Habitat for Humanity of Okaloosa, Inc., and they have submitted an application and payment for rezoning of the property, commonly known as lots 4, 5, 6, and 11, Block 1E of Adams Powell subdivision. Lot 11 is the only lot that has ingress-egress rights from a developed roadway. Lots 4, 5, and 6 are landlocked at this time. The unopened right-of-way of Lloyd Street North is environmentally challenged with a steep ravine terrain, and if it could be possible to develop it in the future, it would be a very expensive endeavor. The property is currently assigned the single-family dwelling district zoning classifications R1A, which requires a 30-foot front setback, a 25-foot rear, and 10 feet on each side. The requested change is to single or multifamily dwelling district zoning, R2, which requires a 25-foot front setback, a 20-foot rear, and 7.5 on the sides. The proposed plan for the property is to be replatted into 5 single-family lots that do not exceed 6,000 square feet minimum lot size for the R1, R2, which shall exceed the 6,000 square foot minimum lot size requirement for the R1 and R2 categories. The new lots will not meet the width requirement to allow for multifamily, so the only approvable development that shall be single-family homes. The property is contiguous to R2 zoning classifications on the western boundary, which via the proposed Adams Estate subdivision. So far, this is not spot zoning. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Okay. I now ask the applicant, who is the owner of record or their authorized agent, to present its case, including witnesses. Maximum 20 minutes.
Randall Hilburn, West Terra Development, 924 North Verdon Boulevard, Crestview. Basically, just like Mr. Teresa just said, we're the owner.
Excuse me, just a second. He's requesting you move the mic a little bit closer to you, please. There you go. Thank you.
that better? Okay. I'm the agent, authorized agent for the applicant. I'm their civil engineer, and we are in the process of designing a 5-lot, single-family residence subdivision.
I'm sorry to interrupt. They have a copy of the plat if you want to
Oh,
direct
okay.
them with that. Should be in their folder.
Is it in here as well?
It's not in yours.
The preliminary plat is, as you'll see, has the 5 lots laid out. All of them meet the minimum requirements for the city's land development code. And we're actually helping out some of the land that's currently right now landlocked, and we're providing a single road, 2-lane with a cul-de-sac at the end, and stormwater management. I don't know if there's anything else. If you have any questions.
No, I'll thank you for your presentation. I think most of us, we've seen this project now for a while. We're pretty familiar with this. Thank you for that. I now ask that other parties, owners of property located within 300 feet of the property that is a subject of the application, present their case, including any witnesses. Do we have any other property owners that want to present their case at this time? Seeing none, I'm now going to ask, are there any witnesses from the general public who wish to speak for or against this application? Please keep your remarks no more than 3 minutes per person, unless one person represents an organization or group of people who are present and who yield their time to an individual person. Then the time limit for that speaker shall be 6 minutes. Is there anybody from the public to address the council at this time? Hearing no further testimony, the council will commence deliberations and render a decision. Are there any comments from members of the council? This is our second reading, right? Hearing no further comments, do I hear a motion?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I move to adopt ordinance 1644 on second reading and send to mayor, council president, and city clerk for signatures.
President, so second.
It
We
is
have-
6, is it not? Did you say 44?
Yeah.
1644.
Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood what he said.
We have a motion to adopt ordinance 1644 on second reading and send to mayor, council president, and city clerk for signatures. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with 1 absent. I now declare this quasi-judicial hearing closed. And we will move on to ordinance 1666. Madam Clerk, if you would read that, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ordinance number 1666 reads by title. An ordinance of the City of Crestview, Florida, vacating and abandoning the platted 75-foot wide right-of-way of Main Street, being renamed Maypole Street, lying between and adjacent to Block 41 and Block 42, as shown on the T.W. Coleman survey map of the town of Crestview, and the reservation of non-exclusive perpetual easement for utility and ingress and egress purposes, providing for maintenance thereof, providing for update of the Crestview base zoning and land use maps, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for filing of this ordinance with the clerk of the Circuit Court of Okaloosa County, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is the second reading of ordinance 1666.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Ms. Teresa, would you interpret that for us, please?
Okay. The First Baptist Church of Crestview, Inc. has property owners on both sides of the right-of-way in Block 42 and the southern half of Block 41. This property is identified on the T.W. Coleman survey map of the town of Crestview, dated October 1st, 1928, according to the plat thereof recorded January 5th, 1929, being the same as on file in Plat Book 1, page 72, at the office of Clerk of the Circuit Court of Okaloosa County. They submitted the request for right-of-way of this portion of Maypose. It runs between two city blocks. The area is currently used for parking and ingress-egress between the church and the Burger King restaurant. There are numerous utility elements located within this right-of-way. The request was submitted under the provisions of the City Procurement Guide for processing and rezoning and also property vacation applications. The petition was submitted by the Baptist Church, sent via certified mail to the other property owner, the Burger King, who had no response and did not respond to the city. The city hereby reserves and retains a non-exclusive perpetual easement on, over, under, across the right-of-way being vacated and abandoned for the use of utility and ingress and egress purposes. The First Baptist Church will accept responsibility for the maintenance of the surface of the vacated right-of-way and which shall continue to be utilized as parking. The parking area shall be maintained as per Chapter 102, Article 8, Section 102, 151C2 of the City Code of Ordinances. Is there any questions?
Gentlemen, any questions, comments? Again, this is something we've seen before, so at this point I call for action.
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Booker.
I move to adopt ordinance 1666 on the second reading and send to the mayor, council president, and city clerk for signature.
Mr. President, second.
I have a motion second to move to ordinance 1666 on second reading and send to mayor, council president, and city clerk for signatures. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0, one absent. At this time, I call on the public. Anybody in the public would like to address the city council on any topic that's on tonight's agenda? Anybody from the public like to address the council on an agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent agenda, and I ask for action, please.
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Cox.
I move to approve the consent agenda items A, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, and N.
Second, Mr. President.
I have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda from A to O with the exception of, A to O with the exception of O and B. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0, one absent. I see no resolutions, no committee reports, so we'll move on to project reports and comments from the mayor and council. And I'll start with, before we go around the table here, let's go with the appointment of the OCLC alternate. And that was confusing to me because I thought that was the Okaloosa County League of Cities. But it's Okaloosa County Public Library Committee. And so we're looking for a volunteer to be the alternate to that committee. Do we have anybody that's...
Mr. President, I'm primary, so I can't go. So far, I haven't missed a meeting now, but maybe once in 5 years.
Would you, for the benefit not only of the council, but the benefit of the public, maybe explain what kind of time it does, what kind of time you have to put into it in order to do that? What do you do?
What this is Okaloosa County Library Co-op, which comprises of all the libraries in Okaloosa County. We meet once
every other month.
Every other month, at 4 to 5. It's normally an hour. It's pretty strict on the time that the libraries explain what's going on at their different libraries. We cooperate with the county for its funding and the state, get that approved, and whatever's going on with different libraries, they make that information known to all other librarians so they might coordinate and work together. It's not a long meeting. I would say that it's just a matter of timing coming back, because you hit the traffic coming back, going, you don't hit any traffic, so I have to be there. You know, you're gonna add an extra 15 minutes coming back, depends on whether you get stopped at the bridge or if you get stopped up at Duke Field.
Mr. Coming back from where? Niceville?
Oh, it's at Niceville's library.
Yeah,
They have the Niceville library, so I would recommend anybody who has spare time with that,
All right.
they could fill in.
We have
Like I
any-
say, most time I'm there. It's rare if I'm not there.
So just an alternate position?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We have any volunteers? And we can't put Councilman Fairclough just because he's absent.
We can't.
No, we can't do that.
That was my recommendation.
Do we have any real volunteers to be the alternate? You can't interfere with the city council meeting.
Mr. President, I might
Yes,
add
ma'am.
that's on Wednesday's time frame.
Well, let me ask you this, one more question. We'll play 50 questions here. Does it have to be an elected official?
No, not that I'm aware of.
So we could reach out to other people, could we not?
Am I correct on
Well, we-
that?
It has to be someone with voting rights.
A resident that votes.
Mr. Hawley, do you know that? If the primary and alternate to the library cooperative has to be an elected official? Do you see anybody else there that's not elected, I guess is the question.
Well, as of now, it can't be the mayor because he doesn't have voting privileges.
Why don't we see who can qualify and maybe go out and look again? And then we'll bring it back. If it has to be elected official, we'll bring it back.
It could be any of the council.
Okay,
I'm
let's
not
do some
sure.
more research then. Okay.
Should take it like.
But anyway, I'm going to go back to the mayor. Do you have anything else for us?
No, sir, not this evening.
Okay. Councilman Hayes, you have anything?
No, sir.
Councilman Blood? No. Councilman Cox? All right, then I'll go back now because I see some of these are going to be me, and I'd like to be last if I can. The approval of attendance at the Transit Symposium. Last month, we said it would be incumbent upon us to have a representative at that symposium, and the West Florida Planning Council, Regional Planning Council recommends we have somebody there, but it seems as though it's difficult for any of us to attend. I know that I would have to cancel a couple of things. If we can't, Councilman Cox, you tell me you'd like to volunteer for that?
Yes, I want to go to
Okay,
that.
that would be great, because I believe we decided last time we could expend the $200.
Oh.
That's the registration.
I did not attend the Florida League of Cities this year. That was 2,200 savings that was
Oh,
in the
so
budget.
we
That's
can afford
200 to go, so I want to go.
We can afford it. And I believe they extended it for elected officials. It's still 200 because
Yes.
it's gone up to 250 right now, but for
Yeah.
elected officials, it's still 200.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Mr. Cox.
Thank you.
Mr. Witten, if I may, as a member of the Transit Co-op, I plan on attending also, so we will have two representatives there.
Just cough up 200 for Mr. Cox.
It's in my budget.
Thank you.
Okay, the half-cent sales tax. Let me get to the right tab here. That is 13B. Yeah, I got it. I'm just one page away. All right. If you go to tab 13B, C, you see these are projects that we submitted to the county back when they asked us if we were to have a half-cent sales tax increase, how would we use that in Crestview? And we submitted all those projects listed on this sheet of paper. Now, I attended the county commissioners meeting last week, and they have a citizens committee that's reviewing projects and making recommendations to them. And we did well, even though they left one off by accident. The number one project was the southwest bypass here in Crestview. That was corrected at the meeting, so that's the number one priority. Actually, I didn't prioritize them, but on the list it was number one. And then the northwest bypass is what they're counting on when you're going up from the interchange all the way up to 90. They're calling it northwest bypass. Both of those projects are on that county list. But we didn't have anything else on there. They're meeting on Wednesday. Well, they're probably not meeting on Wednesday now because of the weather, but they were going to meet on Wednesday to solidify their list. And so my question to my fellow councilmen is, do we want to resubmit this list to remind them what we want? Do we want to add to it? Do we want to prioritize it? Do we want to do anything else with this list to prompt the county commissioners to look at any other thing they can do for it? Oh, by the way, Raspberry Road and Arena Road was on there also. So transportation, we have 3 projects on what they're looking at, transportation in Crestview. So what are your thoughts on these, on the other issues? Anybody? Councilman Hayes?
Mr. President, thank you. I agree with all the items that are listed on there, and we might read them out for the public to hear later on if your discretion. But we all know the traffic issue within our city. And we know that Crestview alone, which is not our roads, by the way, will not resolve this, but with the half-cent sales tax, which is proposal by the county, there's a great possibility that that much-needed bypass will be completed if this is approved by the citizens countywide, that within 3 to 5 years they can be driving on that bypass, and I truly believe that. It's one thing we know for sure: if the county residents don't approve it, you can almost forget that bypass during my lifetime. Now, for you youngsters that are 15 or 20, y'all might see it. But for people my age and older, we won't see it unless this is approved. That's it, Mr. President.
Mr. Cox, you have comments?
Yes, I would suggest that we individually prioritize and come up with a matrix, council members, but also department heads, particularly police and public works, and come up with a matrix to see what the strongest.
The only issue with that's a great idea. The only issue is they're going to decide on projects Wednesday. Well, they're going to postpone the meeting by a day or two. But sometime the next week, they're going to look at all these projects. And so if we want to prioritize these, we have to do it pretty quickly.
One other point, the meeting the commissioners have scheduled is kind of getting a little bit cart ahead of the horse, because it still has to be approved by the voters, which we're hoping it does. But
what they're trying to do, is to tell the public what the projects are in order to win the public over to get the vote. So they want to be able to publicize what the projects are.
Okay. Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead.
And some of the citizens are concerned about what are you going to do with the money. This tells them what our possibilities, and we mainly know it's doing with infrastructure, transportation. So that's why that's why they want to do that, is get the information. If you do approve it, this is what your money's going to go for. It's not going to go for anything else except what's on the approved list. So that's why you got to have a proposal, something to show them this is what your improvements that you're going to see from this county with the city's input, and also with funds that would happen. So that's the reason for that.
The suggestion I made to them, because I spoke to them at the meeting, is that because when we submitted these, it was a 5-year sunset on that tax increase. And now it's a 10-year sunset. So I told them that you really need to come back and resolicit, because what we gave you is what we're looking at, we could do immediately. But if we're going to look in long range, we might want to submit more projects. So I think they'll come back and solicit. But I just want to make sure that we're getting in there. And your suggestion, Councilman Hayes, let me read these off so people do know, and they can see the priority is transportation. Because we already talked about the bypass, which isn't even on our list because the county already had it. The county already had P.J. Adams on the priority list. But then we had enlarged the turn radius and industrial driving Highway 90, that's transportation. The Crestview Corners Access Road, that's transportation. Redstone Avenue, Brookmead Roundabout construction, transportation. Maycrest, Dugan, Connector Road, transportation. Arena Road paving, phase 1. Arena Road paving 2. Arena Road paving phase 3. Dugan Avenue extension to Arena Road. These are all transportation issues that we've submitted to the county. Then comes the gun firing range, Raspberry Road extension, again, transportation, sports complex, including land, a county and school board projects could fund together, and then environmental upgrades. So these are the ones that we submitted. And when they reset the meeting, I would just suggest somebody go to the county commission meeting and make sure that they're looking at all of our projects. Because, like I said, we do have some on there. We want to make sure to look at all of them. Yeah, go ahead, Councilman Walker.
I want to make sure that we have a updated list of the projects so listed, and we all working off of the same page.
This is the one we submitted. This is the most.
But we don't have them all on this list. County commissioners has got the east bypass and all that data. We don't have it on our list.
Are you saying you want to see all the county projects?
That's right.
Yeah, that'll come from the county, and they discussed it at their meeting, but they weren't ready to release it because they haven't voted on it yet.
That's right.
They have a citizens committee that's reviewing and making recommendations to them. Okay, so my second question is, of these projects, you know, every year Senator Gaynor and quite frankly Representative Ponder will ask us, what is your most important need in Crestview? Sure. We don't want to go there empty-handed. You know, and we haven't done that. In the last 2 years, we've gone there and we put our hands out and said, please, you know. And we didn't get anything yet, but we tried. So what project do we have on this list here that we want to go back? The P.J. Adams, the widening project, the Raspberry Road, Arena Road, we submitted the last 2 years. Okay. Where do we want to go? Because Senator Gaynor is asking for input now. Yes, Councilman Cox.
I would recommend on the for state assistance that we try the Raspberry Road extension again. I mean, we haven't got any traction on it yet, but it's still important on the transportation list. And I would be for resubmitting that again.
Any other comments on that? Are you
Those
done?
are limited amount of funds.
Yeah,
yes. Right, limited.
You're done. The only thing is that extension has been incorporated into phase 4 and 5 of the P.J. Adams project. P.J. Adams now is not just the road; it's also the Arena Raspberry Road extension.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're conflicting by asking two different people to do that. I don't know.
Good point.
What do you think, Mr. Steele? What do you think?
I don't think it's conflict. I think that if the money's there and it qualifies for that use, it'll just be additional funding that we'll have to go toward the project. Because right now we're pledging $10 million.
$8.
Huh? $8
million.
Yeah. So if the state's willing to help us with that, then that's less that we have to come out of our pockets.
Good point.
That's my opinion.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. President, for the basic knowledge, if they do go into the county, the state goes in, the projects that you have listed, which we were telling the citizens, this is what projects that we want to utilize the half-cent sales tax, we can almost complete everything within that's on this list in 10 years. In my opinion, that's on there. With their assistance for the large major, $200 million bypass, that's only half of it, so I think it's great that what we got on here stays on here.
Okay, there are two things that should happen then. Senator Gaynor sent the email to our mayor with a courtesy copy to me. I don't know if y'all got it or not.
Yes.
Did you? Okay. Would you respond on behalf of the city?
Sure will.
And tell us that remains our #1 project, the Raspberry Road, Road. That remains our #1 project. And then whenever we go, when they have the legislative hearings in Niceville, then we can send someone again to go and speak on behalf of that. Right. But if he's already has it ahead of time, that just reinforces it.
I'll go ahead and get that out.
Okay, good. Thank you. And then the last thing, the government week update. I want to hand out a proposal that I have and let you all give me your input on it. There we go. Would you hand that down to city clerk, too, if you would. Hand it down that way, I appreciate it. You know, on the 22nd, we're having the city government special meeting in Warriors Hall. We're going to recognize various groups that support us here in Crestview. These groups that are listed here have already been invited or in the process of invited, and they haven't RSVP'd, not all of them. But as you can see, we're going to have a lot of people, and that's why we moved to the Warriors Hall. We have a lot of people coming in, and we will recognize them in front of God and the world, you know, broadcasting it live. And it'll be one of these where representing us tonight is Girl Scout troop number whatever. We had them all stand up and say a little bit, a couple of sentences of what they do. We recognize them, applaud, and let them sit down, and they'll feel part of the city. And then we'll have the open house afterwards with all the elected officials, department heads. Everybody can go and talk to them. Well, my question to you is, at the beginning of the meeting, typically I recognize any VIPs in the audience, and I'm pretty assured we'll have one, maybe two county commissioners that are going to react to the invitation. Any former Crestview elected officials that will be in the audience, our citizen of the year who will be in the audience. They would be, those on organization clubs, they'll be recognized at the beginning of the meeting. When we get to the organizations and clubs, we can handle it several ways. The mayor could get dry mouth and do all these recognitions, which is typically, you know, the mayor is representing the city and announcing all that. Or we could divide it up. The mayor's shaking his head. We could divide it up where we choose to divide up certain groups by how we know them. For instance, Joe, if you've got a good relationship with the North Okaloosa Amateur Radio Club, I know you broadcast with them all the time. So if you had a good relationship, you might want to be the one to recognize them. That's my suggestion. And if you don't want to do it that way, then the mayor and I will divide them up, or I'll do them. What do y'all think? You want to divide up the groups and have every council member, every elected official, including the city clerk and the mayor, divide these up? We know the mayor is going to do sister cities, because that's going to be at the very end. He's going to read the proclamation, introduce Mayor Fauché from the MOTA. Yeah, you got to practice
How about that?
Yeah. And present him with, they'll exchange gifts in front of everybody. That'll be the grand finale, the sister cities recognition. And you'll do a proclamation at the very beginning of the meeting for City Government Week. But all the rest we can divide up. So whip it on me, guys. What do you think?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead.
I plan on being there, so it wouldn't matter to me one way or the other.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to identify is there a particular group you see here that you would like to be the one to do the recognition? And we can put your initials down there.
I'd like to
reserved for
recognize,
you.
Mr. President, I'd like to recognize the Carver Hill Historical Group.
Okay. Any other group?
And I wouldn't have any problems with the Girl Scout, Boy Scouts.
Okay. Now, what they'll do is they'll be identified
By
troop numbers. Yeah. So you say, you know, whatever. Okay. So you want to do those two? All right. Mr. Blocker, any particular groups that you would like to introduce?
It don't make any difference. I think the power to go around though.
No, that's why I'm asking you if you want to do that. You don't have to, but if you want to do that, we have to identify so we're not all fighting each other. Who's going to introduce who? Is there anybody in particular you see on that list?
You got a hand up, Daniel.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Actually, that was a scratch. But while I have, I'd be happy to do Main Street and the Elks since I'm members. Are you going to do Kiwanis, or do you want me to do Kiwanis?
Hang on just a minute. I got to put on Betsy Ross. I mean Betsy Roy. You know, I was thinking the Kiwanis, but I'm going to be doing other ones. So if you want to do the Kiwanis, that's fine with me. And I do want to do the student government because I've worked on getting them here for 2 years. Okay, Councilman Cox, you want to participate in this or not? It's up to you.
I'm just seeing this, so.
You sit there and think about that.
I'm going to be there, but this is a new presentation.
We'll assign the rest to Councilman Fairclough because he's not here.
Careful, he's watching.
Oh, no. Sorry, Doug.
What's that date on that, JP? The date this is.
That's going to be the 22nd.
22nd, isn't it?
It's going to be, that's when it's going to be in Warriors Hall at 6 p.m.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Mr. President, I do Special Olympics.
Okay, you want to do Special Olympics? And like I said, I have not RSVP on all of these. I can tell you who I have. If you, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are really, and if you remember last year, they came here and supported us.
Yeah.
They're really interested, and we need to keep that interest alive. So I think we're going to have a lot of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts in the audience. That's a good thing. I'll do the chamber if you don't mind, unless you want to do the chamber. It should be something that you know enough about the club to be able to say, this is what they do for our community. That's all. Well, what we can do is I will give this sheet to our assistant, and you can send out which ones have been taken. If anybody else wants to take other ones, submit it to you, and if not, then I'll do the introductions. But if somebody wants to do that, they'll just contact you and sign up on the list, okay?
Mr. President, I'll do concerned citizens also.
Since he's already volunteered to do that one.
I'll do concerned citizens.
Okay, concerned citizens of Crestview. And they have, well, actually, Catherine hasn't gotten back to me yet. I have to left her a voicemail.
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead.
have you given it any thought, possibility, you might have a resident or an officer from some of these organizations to join you, along with you, the time you want to make a presentation?
We're not gonna make a
Well, I
presentation.
mean, hey, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, or what have you.
We got 20-something groups here.
Secondhand information to get lost.
But-
That's my concern.
Right, but not a bad idea, Mr. Blake, but keep in mind, what the real intent is to have the open house afterwards. We want a short meeting. So we're gonna do 2 legislative actions to demonstrate the process to the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, student government, and then we wanna focus the rest on recognition and then get to the to the open house. It's not a bad idea, but I'm just saying 3
Here's
minutes.
what I'm thinking.
Yes,
You said you're gonna have tables up around the room.
that's after the meeting.
For the PR. Then at each table, every councilman, whatsoever leader, then any of these organizations could have a representative there to back up what you're gonna try to say. Then you can have it straight from the horse's mouth and not secondhand information. We want everything to be accurate and transparent that we tell the public, right?
Right.
Yeah, think about that a minute.
Mr. Whitten, if I can make a suggestion, maybe we have a table, if these groups have a letter or a pamphlet about them, and just have that for people, if you're interested, it's at the back table, and that way if they want interest in it, there's
Exactly.
information, rather than having an actual talk, they can pass out their information at that table. Kind of like the chambers.
Yeah, I would have to recontact everybody and ask them to do that.
Yeah.
I can do that in my spare time.
Really.
Okay. Let me make a note of that, though. I will. As soon as I find my notes. Okay, that'll close that, except for anybody, I'll leave this up here, so if you want to pass it around the horn. Okay, clarification on the Okaloosa County Public Library Cooperative. Must be a publicly elected official with voting privileges in their municipalities. So that answers that question. Thank you, Teresa.
Mr. Whitten, I'm going to volunteer for the Women's Club because I have to go talk to them tomorrow about recycling anyway, so I'll just, ask them to bring stuff.
Okay. All right. Staff reports and recommendations. And now we're to 14A, discussion, approval of city manager search documents.
How would you, Sandra? Mr. Eddy has been very patient sitting here through this meeting in case y'all have any questions. We went over these documents at the last meeting. I understand, and I sent out a corrected copy of the RFQ because evidently I picked up the wrong one that still had City of Milton in it, but that has been corrected. And I spoke to Mr. Eddy about the timeline and proposals, and he is going to take care of getting us from the information to the International City Manager Association, Florida City and County Managers Association, Florida Association of Counties, and there was an SRG? What was it? SGR group. The ad, Florida League of Cities, newspapers, and the City of Crestview website we will take care of internally. So if there are any questions about any of the documents that were presented last time or any other corrections before these go live tomorrow.
Any comments, questions about, these are documents we've looked at before. I have a couple things. Once y'all make comments, questions? Don't have any. Two things. Number one, I've heard Mr. Dorman's name floated around a few times, that he could be very beneficial to the city if we asked him to maybe sign a temporary contract with us to help guide in the new city manager. Otherwise, he knows Crestview. He still works with us all the time. We just here this evening. And he would be able to work with the new city manager, put a hand on his shoulder, steady him, if we felt like we wanted to bring him in that role to do that. So I want to float that idea, whether it's Jeff's been a member of our city and knows everything going on here. Could he help out a new city manager coming in when he first gets here? What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Blocker?
I recommended this weeks ago.
I'm saying.
I'm just saying, since this is a pilot program for this city, I highly recommend it.
Good. I was watching that meeting, remember, I couldn't make it.
Right.
Any other thoughts on that?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Yeah, you like the idea?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, why don't we talk to him and find out what he would require from us, what kind of agreement that he would help us do that. I think that would be a good thing, because it is first time we're getting into business.
You're talking about after the selection process?
Yes.
During, okay.
Oh, yes, yes. But staying on, are you done now, Madam Clerk? Okay, what I'd like to do is I'd like to call Mr. Eddy up, if I could. If you identify yourself, I just want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah, Edwin Eddy, 300 Bear Drive, City of Gulf Breeze.
Thank you for coming over from Gulf Breeze. You helped us out already, and I know you were very helpful in Destin. And that's the question I have. I was supposed to meet with someone in Destin tomorrow, but guess what? That meeting got canceled. So, my question to you is, would you share with us a little bit how you get, let's say we get 55 that Destin got, which we may or may not get that many. And obviously, we're not going to interview 55 people. It's going to be a progressive elimination. Would you describe that process so we can all see what it looks like, or at least your recommendation for the process?
Well, I think that sort of illustration there is the way it's going to work. You'll have 55 applications, and you'll narrow those down by comparing to the RFP that we have put together. Those people that meet the qualifications that are in the RFP will make that first cut. Then we'll look at the folks that, and this is just staff, this is just your advisors. You can pull anybody from anywhere you want to do. That's up to the city council.
Well, I'm asking you, did they use a citizens committee? Did they use your organization? Did they use their staff?
What we did is I gave them my list and staff gave them their list, and they said, of the 55 applicants, you've got about 18, I think was the number that we came up with, that really met the qualifications and had the type of experience that we felt like you'd be looking for. We discussed that with the city council. Then the city council was asked on October 15th, they'll each give us their lists of going through all 55 and looking at each one. And this is the same thing the city of Milton did. There will be some disparity among the lists and some congruence. So we'll take the lists that each of the council members prepare, look at the ones that we prepare from the FCCMA, and where they're consistent, we'll say, Mr. Smith was on everybody's list. He gets 6 points, 5 points. Mr. Jones was only on 3 lists. He gets 3 points. And then you'll use that process to identify the leaders in the narrowing down process. Once you get to that list, you'll discuss that in a workshop or at a meeting, and you'll say, you know, I like the one that Mr. Hayes came up with, and I'm willing to take one off my list to add somebody that he's got on his list. And you'll come up with 5 or 6, maybe 10. You may want to send folks a questionnaire that Mr. Dorman can help create, or we can help create, and get some written responses. You may want to interview those 5 or 10 by Skype, by telephone. Once you've had that process done, then you can say, now we're down to about 3 that we really, really like, and we'd like to bring them in and have a face-to-face interview with those 3.
And when do you do the thorough background check of the resume, when you get down to the final 3 probably? Or?
Yes, sir, I would recommend that, and that will be something that staff will do. The FCCMA won't do that.
No, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, questions or comments from councilman here? We've got an expert here. He did it for about 30 years.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Eddie. He came over when I had my town hall meeting and really explained it to me. This time frame, I know we had just a rough time frame there, but what time frame are you really actually looking as close as possible after you've received the applicants back that desire this position, up until actually selecting somebody? What time frame are we looking at, so the citizens will know the time frame, also what we're looking at?
Well, we can, as soon as the applications are in, and at that time,
26
November it closes, we can turn our process around really quickly. And then the council will review those, as in Council President Witten's example. If there's 55, you'll have 55. If you want to go through all 55, you can. Take a week to do that. Or and we can submit our list the next day or 2. A week later, let's say. And then as soon as you get your list together, then do the list comparisons. It all depends on meeting schedules. That's right around the holiday period, in December, when you'll be going through that. So based on your availability, we can have starting the final list and making the back reference check somewhere around the 1st of January.
Mr. President, I have
yes.
Because he said, if we get 55, now I know some of my fellow councilmen, they can go through 55 applicants probably pretty fair. 55 applicants for us to personally sit down and look at is a lot of applicants. Is there a process where it's narrowed down before, if you get 55, is there a process where maybe somebody else narrows that down to 25 for us?
We can do that for you. I just
a lot of people will be looking at.
We can do that for you. I just didn't want to be presumptuous that my judgment would supersede yours. I still think you ought to look through it. But I'll give you my list of 10 or 15 or 20 right away. You can take that for what it's worth, or you can substitute your list for that through a process of elimination and discussion. I just didn't want to say, well, I'm going to take this process over. I'll give you my list and my recommendations, but I still think you should, to the extent you can, you're going to want to look at my list, and you're also going to want to go through the 55 or 75 or however many applicants you get.
Mr. President, another question. Now, you saying your list, will there be a group of, or will it be just your list? Will it be other other people that on with your group?
Yes, sir.
Like maybe other fellow city managers, things like people who have experience with that. Because you said your list, but
yes, sir.
It'll be a composed list.
I should have used the royal we.
Okay,
we would have a group that would look at it.
Okay.
You done?
One other thing.
Go ahead.
Now, with your group, would it be proper if we recommend somebody to be added to the group that you're going to be dealing with?
Yes, sir. I mean, that, certainly, if they're willing to do it.
Okay.
Just to give you a little bit of background, the FCCMA is the professional association that most of us belong to once you are in the city manager league, so to speak. And it's the staff to the FCCMA is provided by the Florida League of Cities. And you've got a city manager here in Okaloosa County in Fort Walton who is our district representative for District 1 of the FCCMA. As a member of FCCMA for 34 years, as I've retired, I've become a senior advisor, which means I volunteer for the FCCMA to come to meetings like this and help cities through the process. And there are other folks around the state that do the same thing I do, and I'll ask them to look at the applications and join with me in review.
Okay. That's it for me, President.
Mr. Blocker.
Is there an available document with certain guidelines that you might have available that we might put our eyes on?
The guidelines we use, just from the senior advisors, our previous city manager experience, the kinds of educational and other job experience that's applicable to being a city manager. And then we look at educational experience. It's kind of the same thing you would look at for a job application, but there is not a stated set of criteria. Yes, sir. There is not.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Holly.
We need to be very careful about investigating the information they give us as far as education and whatever, because you know when they had one
yes, sir.
Said he had a college degree and he hadn't ever been to the college.
And that was the point, Mr. Holly, that I made earlier, is once we get the 3 applicants and we take what they have submitted on face value, we would then turn those over to staff for them to do the actual verification.
I would think that we would may have more than 55, because if they had any knowledge of the trouble they've had with the city manager in Destin, I don't know how they got 55. Because every city manager they've had, it's only lasted a little while.
Yeah, what you're saying, Mr. Holly, is that I got time with the people from DeFuniak. I met with them, I think, a couple of weeks ago and discussed the process they went through. And they went through the good process, but it slips through the cracks sometimes.
Just need to check those things. Mr. Holly makes an excellent point. Once you get 3 applicants, you need to do the verification.
Absolutely. Okay, any other comments or questions from Mr. Eddy? Well, I appreciate you coming over.
Yes, sir, and we're looking forward to working through the process, and I think you're going to get, one of the things that is going to attract applicants to this position is it's a first. And there are people who are going to want to be, to help you lead the city through that first, by being your city manager. That should be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we need action on the documents that the city clerk has given us for the, she made the change we requested, and now we need to approve them. So if I could have action, please.
Mr. President?
Yes, go ahead.
I move to approve city manager RFQ and job description as presented, and authorize the city clerk to move forward with the search timeline as presented.
I have a motion second to approve the city manager RFQ and job description as presented, and authorize the city clerk to move forward with the search timeline as presented. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Vote carries 4-0, one absence.
Mr. Council President, thank you very much, and if it's okay, I'm going to go ahead and...
Oh, absolutely, got a trip home.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Might be a lot of cards out there, I don't know.
All right.
Okay, 14B. 14B. Who's at the podium for 14B?
It's the holiday. Oh. That's what you always think.
Yes, sir. What this is my supervisor, dispatch supervisor, Lindsay Arrett, is actually a exempt employee. Chief Traylor moved her there a while back. With the loss of several dispatchers with PD, we've offered our assistance because all my people are certified telecommunicators, and about four of them have dispatched for law enforcement before. So what we offered is to have some of our girls help them out by filling in their schedule, working overtime, because with our schedule they got 4 days off. So with that, they're able to pull some dispatch positions over at PD. Lindsay is one of them that could do that, but with her being a exempt employee, she doesn't receive any overtime at all, so she'll have to only do it during the daytime. But then again, being my secretary on top of that, executive assistant doing payroll and all that, I need her over there during the day. So with this, putting her on a non-exempt status just for temporary will allow her to be able to work over there on weekends, nights, and be able to actually get overtime. Her current pay right now is just $20.87. Her temporary pay would go to $20.67. Estimated overtime will approximately be about 6 shifts a month. Chief Grant did agree with the fact of the PD would be paying her overtime, and then this temporary status will approximately about 8 months. She'll be able to assist over there, not only filling in with some of the blank spots on the schedule, but also be able to assist with training new personnel as well, since she does have really good experience between both fire and police.
Okay, comments, questions? I'd like to say, first of all, it's fantastic cooperation between the two departments. And secondly, anything that's going to help the chief keep his people on the road instead of sitting there in dispatch has got to be very beneficial to everybody. So I'm obviously in support of it. Dee? All right, no questions, comments? Could I have action, please?
Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I move to approve the request from the fire and police chief regarding police dispatch training.
Second.
So second.
A motion second to approve the request from the fire and police chiefs regarding police dispatch training. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0, one absence.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 14C, ordinance 1654. Madam Clerk, did you read that, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, ordinance number 1654 reads by title. An ordinance repealing ordinance 1642 due to an erroneous property description, providing for authority, providing for annexation of 62.5 acres more or less of contiguous lands located in sections 35 and 36, Township 3 North, Range 24 West, and in Section 2, Township 2 North, Range 24 West, and being described as set forth herein, providing for land description, providing for boundary, providing for land use and zoning designation, providing for amendment to the base land use and zoning maps, providing for a comprehensive plan amendment, providing for filing with the Clerk of Circuit Court of Okaloosa County, the Chief Administrative Officer of Okaloosa County, and the Florida Department of State, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance 1654.
Ms. Gaylor, you're on.
Okay. Gentlemen, this is the Tom Young property down in the southwest quarter of our city. It's along Garrett Road. You have in your packet the ordinance 1642 and 1654. If you'll turn to the page with the map on it, you'll be able to see instantly what's being added to the property. It's the two small areas that were previously designated as wetlands. In order to get through your comp plan, they're going to need to annex in the entire piece of property. So the property owners plan to develop a single-family residential home subdivision to be known as Cherrybrook. The property is contiguous to the corporate limits and eligible for annexation. In discussion with Public Services, water and sanitary sewer is available and sufficient to meet the demands of new development. And as you know, we are in high demand for affordable single-family homes in Crestview. This phase 1 of Cherrybrook development will yield approximately 100 homes, and we already have offers for purchase of them. So, is there any questions, or if you compare the two maps, you can?
Councilman Blocker has a question or a comment.
I don't have a map on the 1642.
I'm sorry, 1642.
No map. 1654.
There. See this? That's your difference. Those are two
Same property.
It's the same property.
Yeah, okay.
Only the new annexation includes all the wetlands.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none, could I have action, please?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
I move to adopt ordinance 1654 on first reading and move to second reading.
Mr. President, second.
Have a motion and second to move to adopt ordinance 1654 on first reading and move to second reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0, one absence.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's the one we took off. Yeah, that's one we took off. Right, the last one is the one we took off, right?
Right, D.
Okay. All right, so this time, what I'd like to do then is go around to our department head. Well, I'll start with Mr. Hawley. Do you have anything for us?
No, I don't have anything. I think it's a good thing we get the pre-contract today. We've got a hurricane on the way here. We're gonna need it.
Madam Clerk?
Two things. One, I will remind you that we need to discuss the November 12th meeting.
Need to what?
Discuss the November the 12th meeting.
Well, then let's discuss it.
November, the November the 12th, one on November the 12th is the regular official Veterans Day celebration will be at 11 o'clock on November the 11th downtown at the courthouse terrace, as it always has been. However, the parade will be on Saturday, November the 12th at 10 o'clock. So if you're going to have a veteran in your golf cart, I need that information as soon as possible so we can get them their hold harmless agreement. And November the 12th is also our regular council meeting. So if we move it, we have two options. We can move it to the next night, or we can move it to November the 1st, since we already have an extra week between now and the November the 1st meeting. If we move it to the week after that, you are in the Monday before Thanksgiving, so I'm not sure how many people might be out of town for that. So
If you move it to the
What's the will of the council on this?
it's gonna be on Tuesday, which I'll probably have a meeting.
yeah, Mr. Holly won't be able to be here on the night on the 13th.
I don't know if it's next night, it's gonna be on a Tuesday night, and that's when I have school book.
Typically, we don't seem to like Tuesday nights anyway, so I can't speak for everybody. But.
I mean, my recommendation at this point is the November the 1st, either to eliminate the meeting altogether and just go November 26th, or move it to November the 1st, since we already have an extra.
If you move it first and have the workshop 2 weeks later, then you get on Thanksgiving week.
Right.
So there's a benefit to moving to the 1st of November.
Actually, 3 weeks. It will be 3 weeks till the workshop.
You got a consensus?
Maybe the first.
Oh, Bill's checking his calendar. He's got all these obligations here.
First.
It's not the 1st of November, it's the first Monday in November.
Well, the first Monday.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Veterans Parade.
The 12th.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And I think I understand our Madam Clerk to say parade was going to be that Saturday, but that's not
No,
correct.
it's Monday, the 12th.
That's fine, yeah.
Well,
It's
she
the
said
12th,
something
that's Monday.
Saturday, but we have the parade on Monday. So what is the first Monday in November then? What's the date?
Date is that
The 5th?
5th.
5th? Okay, we have a consensus to move that meeting to the 5th and then do the workshop 2 weeks later?
3 weeks later.
3 weeks later? Whatever. We'll get there.
We're not changing the workshop, just the regular.
Capiche, capiche, got it. Okay, does that sound good? All right, is that all you have?
I think so.
All right, Mr. Steele, what do you have for us?
Just remind everyone when you leave here, please avoid Main Street. We're contractors finishing paving Main Street tonight, so Main Street should be closed and shut down at this time. So please use Wilson and
The whole length?
no, just to Martin Luther King. From Oakdale to Martin Luther King is closed.
Okay.
Anything north or south of that segment is open.
All right. Deputy Chief, you have anything for us?
No, sir, I have nothing.
Miss Marie?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Chief Tony?
No, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Kayla, do you have anything else for us? All right, then I'll ask if anybody in the audience would like to speak to us. Nobody wants to talk to the council. We're getting hungry, that's it. Okay, seeing no one in the audience, this meeting is adjourned. I thank you all for coming.
And thank you again.